Okay, I think we are live now.
It says we
Hello,
are.
beautiful, amazing YouTubers. Welcome to the ADHD Roundtable. It's an open roundtable discussion about ADHD to bring normalcy to neurodiversity while engaging in deep conversations and having fun. My first question to all of you today is, what is your current favorite thing about your flavor of ADHD?
Ooh, that's a good
Starting with the
question.
hard one.
Uh, Um,
Or one of your favorite things. Don't get stuck on the favorite.
I think my ability to like both it's like it's an equal parts pros and cons is the like ability to jump from one topic to another when it comes to business and like both feeling like you're forgetting everything all at once, but then remembering everything all at once. And then like responding to the email when you think of it because you saw that one thing that then vaguely reminded you of it. But then you're searching it and then you see this other thing that in your email you forgot to respond to. So then you go down and then like you accomplish a lot in your day, but you're like, but what did I do? Because you did so many random things. But the ability to be able to pivot and do that many things is very helpful, but sometimes feels chaotic.
Mine is actually similar in that, like, in the past week or so, like, I knew I was going to have some really busy weeks. And then, like, life was super fun and threw in some, like, extra spice. And I was like, when that first arrived, like, I feel like I have that panic or that paralysis of like, there's not enough time. I can't do it. I can't do it all because I feel like I need to do all of it immediately. But then, thank you, ADD. Once I start doing it, all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, it's only 1 p.m. and I've got it all done. And I did it all. Like there's both that thing of like the ADD kind of socks you in the face with this like you can't do it, you can't get it all done. But then once you start doing it, you're like, "Oh, I actually did it. I did it really well and I did it faster than I thought I could." That's cool. I'm going to watch TV for an hour and then I'll go do that other thing that like, isn't as urgent. But that I appreciate about it.
I think one of mine is that because of the way my particular neurospiciness works, is the being able to dive all into so many different things. It's not always when I want to dive into things, but like it's never like I will like something if something gets thrown at me, I can go down the rabbit hole and figure it out. Like that's not a hardship. Going down the rabbit hole is the easy part for me. But it's allowed me to learn way more skills, put my hands into way more types of work and types of experiences than I would have thought possible because my brain's constant search for something to light it up has allowed me to dive deeper into topics that like maybe if I wasn't so neurospicy, I wouldn't have been able to follow the trail so far and I wouldn't have been able to acquire those skills because I would have like been like, no, this is too much, this is too hard. But it's like if it's providing the happy chemicals, I'll keep chasing it.
Um, some of you might not know this. I am an ADHD coach who does not have ADHD. However, one of my favorite things about ADHDers, and I love having access to so many of you, is like your problem solving skills are like I will have this whole thing like mapped out and I'll be like so like in the details of it and the mud and I'll be like, oh, I'm stuck and I need help. So I will just call one of my ADHD friends and be like, help me. And what would have taken me probably a week to do, you can do in like 30 seconds and it's magical.
I think it's because we learn ourselves that we have to think outside of the box. The box does not work. So it's like, yeah, it's like I've gotten that comment from like bosses in the past where they've been like, well, I never would have thought to approach a problem this way. And I'm like, I have no choice but to approach it a weird way. So there you go.
I'm curious if this is true for any of you guys, because I find that that's true. I can do that for other people. Like someone else could be stuck on something and I can come in and do it. And then when I'm doing it for myself, it seems like the only possible way to do it. And then I get stuck. I can do it for other people more than I can for myself. And I'm curious if that rings true for either of you.
I feel like that's just the human condition. Like it's so
we're
much
good at helping
easier.
others, bad at taking care of ourselves.
It's so hard to be in a vacuum and look at what you have to do, and it is hard with your own stuff. And I feel like I just always refer to that like skill as street rat. Like I always called myself a street rat because I was like, oh, I'll just make it work. Like this, and that. And then yeah, I call it my street rat skills, but
I love that.
I love it.
But it is so hard to like function in a vacuum, no matter who you are, I think. It's difficult when it's your own thing and to be objective.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead, Aiden.
I was just gonna say, I think one of the things that has helped me with that is because I find that I can do that better for other people, or for like when it's a work thing that is affecting other people or something like that. I have purposely set up systems in my life to very rarely operate in that vacuum, because I know if I am just me, I'm gonna get stuck. But so I have now set up things with like my spouse and I have like systems that I used with clients for work. We now use just for our personal stuff with each other, like Asana and things like that, because it allows us this like feedback loop. So neither of us can get stuck because we both have ADHD, but very different flavors of ADHD. And so it's like we get each other out of our own feedback loops. And so that's actually implementing things that I would have normally only put into this is a work thing category, and transferring them to personal everyday life was a huge thing in getting me out of that vacuum thing.
Nice. What other systems do you guys have that you have developed or stumbled upon or created for yourself along the way that have been like imperative to your living your life?
I have so like obviously I use like a digital calendar for like long-term planning. However, week to week, like I cannot keep a consistent schedule. I kind of have to run on vibes. Like what am I feeling this week? So I have a weekly planner that literally only shows me a week at a time. And so at the beginning of each week, I sit down and sort of, very much like that. I dump a list of everything I need to do in like the to-do list on the one side. And then I kind of block in, like, do I have appointments that I need to remember? And then like, I kind of just start with like Monday, Tuesday, and half of Wednesday. And then like Tuesday or Wednesday, I go like, okay, here's where I'm at. What do I need to like move over to the other days? What am I feeling like doing? What came up unexpectedly? But like, I need to have it mapped out in that way and not be looking at like more than a week at a time. In order to like really feel, like stay on top of what I'm doing. And I do always block in Monday. I have a like 2-hour period I call my Monday reset, which is like I run the Roomba, I pick one part of the bathroom I'm going to clean, I make sure the dishes are done, and like, whatever. I just like add a few little like householdy things, and they're not the same each week, so my brain doesn't get bored. But by doing them, sporadically enough, things stay vaguely clean, and that's good.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's just incredible. I love that.
I was gonna say it's also like so smart because you never know when those, like to your point earlier, when those moments of magic come through and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do all of the work because the music's right and I feel like it's right and I'm gonna plow through everything. And it's the worst when those moments hit and then you have like to leave for a doctor's appointment. You're like, but I made it.
Yeah. I think also it's a good way of like honoring, like we were saying, sometimes you clean when you're trying to avoid being productive. We might have said that might have been before we started recording, but like we all kind of relate to this, like you clean to avoid being productive, or you might do one thing. I try to honor, even when I'm distracted, if I'm doing something that could be considered productive, that is still getting something done. And so like, if that's what I
Yes.
spent my day doing because I was avoiding something else, that's fine. Good for me. I got it done, and I'll do the thing I was avoiding tomorrow, and I can just move it to my calendar the next
Yes.
day.
Yes. So that just reminded me of like my husband and I both do this. Like we will, if something like that happens, while it's like, okay, I'm not doing the thing that was on my to-do list. Instead, I did these 7 other things I'd been putting off for 3 months. So I will add them to my to-do list so I can
Yes.
physically check them off, because that gives me the happy little
Yes.
zaps.
It
But
is
it's-
devastating when you do all the things and you're like, but it wasn't on the list.
Put it
Yeah.
on the list after the fact.
Put it on the list.
Yeah, I have moved to a very digital system. So mine, I'm living by Asana and by my Google Calendar and my different layers and colors and everything like that. But yeah, one of the things that took me way too long to learn was when I was still assigning tasks to like today in Asana, and then I would get like very down on myself if I wouldn't finish what was listed as today. So everything for this week, even if it's for a specific day, I assign as Friday now, and so it's just in a category called this week. So I can see, and I close all my other categories, so I can't see anything outside of this week, similar to what you do. So it's like I'm only looking at stuff this week, but none of it is like must be Monday, must be Tuesday, unless it's an appointment, obviously, something like that. But so it gives me that freedom of like, okay, when the mood is right for each of these things, and I will plan in my Google Calendar, like, I think this is when I'd like to do this, but then, okay, vibe was not right. I will just shift that over, move it to a different block, move something else over. And like I said, if I suddenly find myself doing things from farther down the list, I'll just go find them, move them to this week, bing, 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 check them off. My husband, on the other hand, is pretty much like whiteboard, 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 but it's again very much this week only, cannot think about anything future. So at the beginning of the week, we're like, okay, what is this week? Don't worry about those dates. What's this week? And make the list of like, literally, these are the 3 most important things. Anything else is gravy. But these 3 important things.
And I think to that point, what's really difficult is being entrepreneurial and strategic and being like, this is what I focus on, this is what I focus on, this is what I focus on. But then you're like, but shit, I'm not focusing on the bigger picture, and like, when am I going to do that? And I think that's like an area I'm still figuring out. And also I applaud and I'm envious of both of you for doing digital. I mean, I do like a digital Google Calendar, but like I also have a physical calendar for like the month so that I can see it. And then I also have to have my like to-do list is physical as well as digital on my phone. I like all of them.
Yeah.
I have the weekly calendar thing. It's like, but I physically need to have it written like through my, I don't know. I wish I could get away from it, but I can't.
I do find like the digital part I need for things that are further away, because I tend to look just a week at a time. So it's like in the moment, if I'm like talking to a doctor and they're like, we're going to book you in for this, would you like me to give you a business card with the date of your next appointment on it? I'm like, that's getting lost immediately.
Yeah.
If I can just put it in my calendar, then at least I know when I sit down to do my week, it will be in there. And the further out it is, the earlier I make the reminder for it. So like if it's more than 2 months away, I have it remind me like a week ahead of time that the appointment is coming, so that like I start to get it in my head, like, remember that appointment is happening next week.
1 week and then 2 days. Oh
yes, exactly. Exactly.
I do feel like the other thing that is like huge for me, and I think this is because like my dad was for sure ADHD. I mean, all the things. He was in every single sport. I think he was even diagnosed like way back in the day. And my grandma was like, he'll just be in every sport known to man. And he was. And it's crazy because I see it so much, that energy in my daughter, one of my daughters, not the other one. And I have it too. And I need to physically expend energy to feel mentally right. And so prioritizing exercise as a form of mental health and as a form of like cleansing my brain and giving my brain, even though I listen to music, it becomes white noise and I'm able to go to this place of quietness within my brain, that is like a form of meditation. you know, that's like the ongoing struggle is like prioritizing exercise within a schedule that's chaos and crazy because you know ultimately it makes you better mentally.
Um, for those of you who don't know what Asana is, Aiden, can you give us a little rundown on what I know what it is, but it's like
Yes.
project management.
Yeah, it's high level, it's a project management system, but it really, if you utilize all its little bells and whistles, even on the free version, like similar things are like Trello, Bandcamp, Monday,
Notion.
Notion. Yeah, it's like some of them just do certain things better than others. It depends on like your visual style, because some are more colorful. And it's just a digital way to kind of incorporate your to-do lists, but put them also under like different project buckets or different like based on one of the clients I work for and adopting a lot of their systems, I have a thing called a someday list. It's all the things that you want to do, but don't have a specific time frame and that you could easily get lost in if you put them on your regular weekly to-do list, especially if you're ADHD. But like, so I have a project in my Asana that's like all these tasks with no due date that are all these things I want to do. And then I can put notes about them. So like there's a resources section. I use it for resources too. So like all those things that used to be the like 50 million post-it notes on my desk are now resources in like as tasks and projects in my Asana. But so it's just like a digital way of organizing your to-do list, but also organizing kind of my whole life, honestly.
Excellent. We started talking about this before we got on here, but for those of you watching, I am a firm believer that a diagnosis of ADHD is a very personal choice. Some people choose to get diagnosed.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Jess?
Jess is frozen.
Oh, I thought it was me.
No.
The inmates are now running the asylum.
Chaos mode.
Absolute chaos. Off we go.
Oh no.
Oh dear. She is very stuck.
I hope she knows she's stuck. What if she's still
expounding? She's just
and then she thinks we're all just staring blankly at her, waiting
Right.
for an
Thinks we're
answer.
just frozen.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, fully lost.
Fully
I'm the
lost.
host now.
You're in
Oh
charge.
no.
Wait, does that
Oh,
mean it's
no.
still being recorded?
It's not still
It
being
still
recorded,
says,
but it still says
but it
YouTube.
says YouTube. So
Hi,
we might still
YouTube.
be
I
on
don't
YouTube.
know.
Hi, YouTube.
The
Like,
joys of technology. Blessing and curse.
Truly.
I'm like, do I have any messages? Nope.
No.
Yeah, we all have ADD. We all
We're
immediately
like, check the
go
phone, check the phone.
look at our phone, see what's going on.
We'll pop in to see if she had messaged to be like, what's going on?
I just got a
Let's
ding.
see.
What did I get? Is it still working on your end? My computer froze up.
Oh
Yes.
no.
Yes, I think we're still live. Question mark. Live?
I think we're still
Maybe?
live.
Oh, wait, wouldn't we be able to see if it's live?
Oh yeah.
This is entertaining content, folks. Absolute chaos.
And my children just screaming.
I can't hear
If it
them.
helps, I can't hear them.
Yeah,
They're
cannot
down.
hear
Oh,
them
we
at all.
are. Yep, we are still live.
Yay! Hello. What was Jess about to ask? I feel like something we talked about
Oh,
before.
what was she saying? Should we try to pick it up? What was it? She was
I
saying
know.
something about diagnoses being personal.
Oh, personal, right.
And whether or not
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll go and get them.
Yeah.
Good time for me to announce that I've never been diagnosed, I suppose.
And I think that's awesome because like peer review and, anecdotal is especially here in the US, unfortunately, it's such a gamble, just the medical system in general.
Mhm.
If you're going to get the right professional who has actually the right qualifications, regardless of what the letters after their name say. Because I actually went through the first time I approached getting a diagnosis, I felt gaslit because I sat through this 2-hour thing with tests and explained everything. And it's like she heard nothing I said, spouted back something about being too smart to have ADHD, and kicked me out.
Oh
And
God.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Most of my friends with ADHD have like master's degrees and PhDs because we just keep needing to put more into our brains. So, and so then for 2 years, I just kind of was like, well, I guess I'm just not going to get a diagnosis.
Oh, she's
Welcome
back.
back.
And she took the hostessing right from me. I was so comfortable. Oh,
Great. My internet decided to stop working.
That's okay. We just tried to take over and be entertaining.
Excellent.
we fell apart there for a little bit, but I think we found ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says we're still streaming on YouTube, so hopefully this is still working.
I did check. We should be still going.
Amazing. Okay. Well, where did you guys leave off?
We were talking about diagnoses or lack thereof.
Great. Keep going.
I think for me too, like, so my dad was diagnosed. Both of my siblings on my dad's side were diagnosed. And I think also like my little sister was diagnosed, but she was put on such like an intensive, I don't know if it was the era, but I feel like it was that moment of like, it's like what everyone always has for the horror story of medicating your child. Like she was put on like way too high of a dosage. Like she was using it also as a form of like, you know, an eating disorder realistically. And I think coming from that and seeing that and like feeling like I probably had similar, you know, characteristics, but also I feel like it's so unique to people, I don't know, that are maybe more predisposed to eating disorders, to having that as like this like weird peripheral aspect to ADHD, like being more susceptible, you know, in general, and then having the like medication be a part of it. And then for my own journey, like I feel like diet culture has just been like I like in my business and what I do and where I went to school, like I feel like diet culture is something that is so just frustrating and angering and all the things. So like the thought of medication has also just been a part where I'm like, well, would I take it? Do I need it? I've, you know, at this point I'm 36 and I've created so many systems, and I do truly see it as a superpower. And I think that there's some like for my like placement on the spectrum, like I have been able to get by well enough with those systems in place. But also it's really cool to have these types of conversations and learn more about it and like embrace that part of me as a superpower. Yeah, just long.
Oh my God. You just like, like, I have so many things I want to say. Because so like being anti-diet culture is a huge part of what I do in like the sort of food world. And I am that. I take ADD meds. You know, when I was younger, did they curb my appetite a lot? Yes. As an adult, have I been able to like find the right dose, regulate to the point where like I eat normally? I don't find that they like really curb my appetite, but it is one of my biggest pet peeves when someone asks if they can have some of my meds.
Ooh.
Like this happens, I'm always floored because I know how much
like shocking.
It happened to me within, I don't know, maybe the past 3 years. Someone asked me, and it took me a minute because I try to be so open about my ADD experiences that it took me a minute to catch on that this person was asking for them specifically for weight loss, rather than, so they came at me like they were asking for advice on ADD and my experience, and they were going to try to find a doctor. And then like I slowly started to realize that they had asked me for them because they wanted to lose weight. And then also they were mining me for what the correct answers would be to tell a doctor in order to get the meds.
Oh.
And I
like,
like immediately
also.
Right. Also that, but like the amount of work I have to do to get my medically prescribed prescription, the dose, which has been the same for a decade, like I have to jump through so many hoops. There's no way I'm giving that to anyone. I need it to function. I'm not giving it to you because you don't want your body to look like mine. Like it was the highest of insults. And I just like, I don't begrudge anyone who doesn't want to be on meds. I've been on mine for a very long time and they work wonderfully for me, but like, oh, that really that really like lit a fire in me. I was not like already if you ask me for my meds, I'm not happy, but if you do it for that, really unhappy.
Yeah, that's a really like great point. The whole thing. It's just such a complicated.
Yeah. It really is.
Well, and it requires so much executive functioning just to get medication.
It's like, here's how you get a diagnosis and medication is to do all these things that go directly against the condition you have.
Yeah.
And it's a scheduled blah, blah, blah drug. So you can't get 3 months of prescription. Nope. You can only get 1 month.
So you have to remember to call your doctor's office once a month and then go to that. Like, yeah, this is great for somebody with ADHD.
Yeah, and I don't know if any of you have run into this, if you use CVS to get meds, but they recently changed their phone tree system to make it even harder to get in touch directly with a pharmacist. So they keep the phone tree will keep leading you to be like, would you like me to text you a link so you can download our app where you can see the status of your refills? And I'm like, I can't get a refill of this. I need to call them to ask if they have it in stock because there's government shortages. Like there is no refill option for me. Yeah. I literally need to speak to a pharmacist and they just redid the phone tree. So no matter what you do, they want to text you a link to download their app.
Yeah. Everybody just wants you to download your app. And I'm like, if that would work, but that doesn't.
Yeah, it's just one more hurdle.
But yeah, for me, after feeling gaslit after that one attempt, and then I took like a year and a half of like, I kind of went back and forth about, do I need the diagnosis or not? But because specifically, like, because I'm a late diagnosed, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if it had been caught sooner, there are things that I look back and I can see, like, accommodations could have been made. I could have figured out some systems earlier. Maybe I would have had more support. The reason I wanted the diagnosis at this point was because the environment I grew up in was so controlled and very much did not believe in the things of mental health that it was sort of valid personal validation. I needed to be like, no, I'm not like nuts. I have this identifiable thing. And that's why this was always hard for me, or my brain didn't work the way yours did about XYZ. It was more like a self-validation thing. And I did get to a point where I was like, if I don't get the diagnosis, like, I know I check off all these boxes. I just won't have the proof, and that's fine. And then I just got lucky and ended up with a new mental health practice who were like, hey, do you want to go to our person and get reevaluated and just see if it comes up different? And surprise, it came up like supremely ADHD. I'm like, oh, I'm so shocked. But like for me, it's a very personal, very, very personal thing. Like my one of my dearest friends, like not diagnosed, pretty sure, like 99% sure, but again, about my age, and is like, I've lived my life and figured out all these systems and I'm functioning, so I don't feel like I have to have the official diagnosis or medication. I don't think that it would almost be a weird difference for her at this point because she's so used to living the way she does. I think she's honestly like, I don't know if I'd want that to change at this point because I'm 40 odd years old and I've always lived this way. It would be weird to kind of like have to restructure everything based on different information or on how I react to medication. So she's like, I just don't know that I care enough. And I'm like, that's perfectly fair.
Yeah. That makes sense. I often wonder because I was diagnosed like fairly young, especially for a woman like born in the 80s. Like I almost every woman with ADD I know was late diagnosed. I'm one of few I know who like I was diagnosed. My parents started seeking a diagnosis for several years before I was diagnosed in like fifth or sixth grade. And they tried, it was like zinc. I don't know what other, there were like other things. They tried checklists, color coding, all these sort of non-medical interventions before they decided to try medication. And it's kind of an odd thing when you're diagnosed with something that young. And I don't know if it's just my parents didn't tell me what I was diagnosed with. My mom just explained to me, like, you're going to take this medication because some people's brains have trouble making connections, and this will help open those pathways so that you can make those connections. So I was diagnosed, but then didn't find out what it was until like ninth grade. And it's kind of weird when you get a diagnosis for something like that because like going through school, everyone's like, oh, homework's so hard. I don't want to do it. And I didn't have any way of knowing that that was different than what I meant when I said homework's really hard and I don't want to do it. Right. So like everything that was recognized in me as being ADD was not something I was perceiving because this wasn't something I had to seek out. I just thought, yeah, everyone's brain works like mine. You know, I was like an oblivious little like middle school, you know, whatever. Everyone's brain works like that. It was my parents and my teachers who were seeing it, who recognized it, who, you know, sort of found the treatments. And then I've kind of had to learn retroactively what ADD is. And my parents, you know, I think they got the diagnosis and they knew what ADD was at that time period. But as I've gotten older and I've learned more, I've had to like continue kind of educating them or teaching them or learning for myself, oh, this thing I didn't think was related to ADD actually is part of that umbrella. And I just wasn't told that at the time because no one knew.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a weird thing when like it is deeply personal, but then like also I didn't really have a choice in it. And sometimes I wonder like what would have happened. I think it's better for me that I got diagnosed, but um it does make you feel a little bit like a sort of bug pinned down when you're like everyone else saw this thing in me that like I didn't realize I was doing anything weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad I got help and the interventions when I did because I've been able to build all my systems onto that as I've grown.
I also think, maybe this is like because I am a parent, like I think it's kind of cool that you were given the opportunity to just discover yourself without this one thing to be like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is it, you know, and like maybe
Yeah.
you were also just so young too, like that might not have even happened had it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of cool that they were intentional about like, you know, this is everyone's different and you're different in this way. So
Yeah.
great. That's pretty
They
cool.
also didn't tell my teachers or anything, like when they put me on meds or anything like that. So like my report cards went from like sort of straight B's with like a C or D in math to like A's with like a B or C in math. And all the teachers sort of wrote like, I knew you could do it if you just paid attention more. And like had no
You
idea that it was like,
applied yourself.
that was
Yes.
the semester that we got the meds.
Uh,
You know, so it's interesting because there could have been interventions, there could have been more accommodations at school or whatever, but I did fine without them. You know, the meds worked and I learned on top of that. But it is kind of a weird thing when you're diagnosed that early because you're not really aware that your brain is, and you know, you just think everyone's brain is like yours.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The I love how like people's brains can work so differently, which is why I ended up becoming an ADHD coach because I'm so curious about how people's brains work differently and how like even just like concepts of people seeing things different. Like, does the purple that I see, is that the purple that you see? Like, is it the same? I don't know. Like, trying to understand other people's perspectives is something that I really, really love and enjoy. And so hearing your guys' stories is really beautiful and fun. And so I thank you so much for sharing them. I would love for you guys to introduce yourself and shamelessly plug anything that you want to. Who wants to go first?
Oh
We
gosh.
all hide in the back of the class. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll go first, but I don't want to. Okay. Let's see. So my name's Sophia. I have a company called Bad Nutrition Chia Pudding. We make chia seed pudding for the rule breakers of the world. I like to say that the company is my breakup letter with diet culture, because I went to school for nutrition and I had a lifelong just difficult relationship with food, which is not unique, especially for women growing up. It was really tough. And I decided to go to school for nutrition because I thought I would unlock all the secrets and knowledge there could ever be of how to attain perfection, I suppose. I mean, but really it was like I loved food and I'd been told my whole life that that was a bad thing, to love food. Which I think so many people are. It's like, oh, if you love food, it's like, oh, well, yeah, well, you know, what you're gonna, you know, this and this and that. And it's like, well, what a beautiful thing to love food and to enjoy food. And some people just eat and they do it because that's what you do. But like loving food is just another color on the palette of beautiful things in the world that we should embrace and love. And so came out of it, married an ice cream maker. So the pendulum swung the opposite way.
I love that.
Worked with a natural food and knew I wanted to start my own product. And so I had this dream of doing something with chia seed pudding. And so we take an inherently nutritious product, make it unabashedly delicious so that we can inspire change with foods that nourish people that also taste really good. So I started that in October of this last year, and it's been just such a really wonderful experience, and being able to kind of embrace those things about me that made it really difficult to work in more of a structured corporate world before. Which was like coming to my bosses and being like, actually, I really want to create this one program that like is this and that. And they're like, yeah, but that's not your job description. I'm like, yeah, but and now I get to do that for myself. So yeah, that's
If someone wants to check out your chia, how do they do that?
so we're on Instagram at Bad Nutrition Chia, and then also badbrand.com.
I love that.
Love that.
Love that. Okay, I guess I'll go next. I'm Rebecca. I run a food blog called The Practical Kitchen, which you can find at thepracticalkitchen.com. It's I like to describe my audience as like ambitious beginners. You can come at it with zero skills, intermediate skills, but like I try to make things fun and a little creative. It's a lot of baking, a lot of bread, but there's all sorts of fun stuff on there. It is an inherently anti-diet space. We don't do nutrition talk, calorie counts. You can do all of that on your own if you want it. I don't know what's going on in your body. I can't tell you how any of these foods will behave in your body. It's up to you to decide what you want to eat. And my hope is just that people making my recipes find joy in making the food and eating the food too. So if you're looking for a food space that is safe from, you know, recipes that are called healthy or whatever, or randomly calculate macros for you, you're not going to find that on my site. You can also find me on Instagram at the.practical.kitchen and all sorts of associated social media platforms. And I just announced today I have a cookbook coming out. It's not going to be for a while. It'll come out in like fall 2026, but I can finally talk about it. It's going to be all small batch breads made with 1 cup of flour, which are just really fun to make. They're great if you don't want to waste a lot of ingredients, if you live alone, if you're the only person in your household who can eat gluten. I have a few of them on my website already. If you look for the small batch breads, people really love them. But I'm going to do a whole book of them and I'm really excited about it. So, you know, pay attention for that in fall 2026.
Woo! That's so exciting.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, I guess it's me. I am Aiden. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Aiden Limitless, and Aiden is Limitless on Instagram and TikTok. I do not have a website currently. I blew it up on purpose. I spent a lot of time trying to fit into boxes I thought I should, and have only within like the last, I don't know, 4 years or so, really started taking that box apart one piece at a time, and really carving my own little weird space in this world, which means that what I do daily for money, and also what I do once in a while for money, and what I do for fun, are all very, very different things. I am an online business specialist for a productivity management training company, which I've actually, it has really helped me to, because like I said, I've taken a lot of that and been able to use it in my own personal life, outside of workspaces, even though it was designed for like managers and business. Um, and then I also support my husband's artistic career. I'm kind of the business manager for his art business, so he can focus on the art, um, and not have to worry about all the minutia, because he will get very lost in the weeds. So now it's my job to get lost in those weeds for him. Um, and then I also sew, and I am also getting back into live performance, because I am never satisfied if I'm not doing 50 million things at the same time. So I personally don't have a business at this moment, but that could change at any time.
Yes. I love that so much. And I'm Jess DuBose. I'm an ADHD coach. And one of the things that I started doing recently is what I've called an ADHD business solution specialist, because I find that in the entrepreneur space, there's a gap, where you have the business up and going, but you're not making enough money to hire someone full time, but you really need the help. And then when you try to hire someone to help you part time, you spend all this time trying to train them, and then it might not work. And then, and I fit right in the intersection of that, because I am an ADHD coach, so I understand the neurodivergent brain, but I also don't have ADHD, and I'm hella organized. It's like one of my superpowers. I also am really intuitive and understand, like, figure out what people need based on how their brain works. I have a background in education that helped me learn some of that stuff. And I've worked in a lot of different industries. So I know a lot about a lot of things. And I've built my own business. So I'm like this weird intersection person. So I'm currently helping a few of my clients like create systems and structures in their business that work for their brain and not in the way that everybody else is saying you need to do it and have to do it. So let's create a structure and system that works for you and your brain, and then let me help you, like, once we've scaled a little bit, because you're making more money now, then I'll help you hire the people and train them, because I love training. I love educating and training people. And a lot of, not all ADHDers, but many ADHDers that I encounter don't like the training part. So that is the goal for me. And then then my hope is, like, I will set you up and then I will move on, or like maybe I'll run parts of your stuff, or maybe I'll see you once a month, or maybe you don't need me anymore, and that's okay too. So it's been a really fun thing that I've moved into. I also do one-to-one coaching and other things as well, and I have my new membership is going to be coming out. I don't know when though. So those are some of the things that I do. What is your current favorite fidget toy?
Oh my gosh, I need to find one because it's probably my nail beds.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is my, like, I've never been a big fidget toy person. It's always been biting my nails or playing with my hair, or like it's something on my body, because I can
So
never misplace that.
you
I don't
notice
have
my
hair,
hand
but I
here?
used to.
Yeah.
This was a big one for
Yeah.
me. I used
The
to
reason I now have the goatee instead of the full beard is because this was a lot of my twisting
Yeah.
my beard right here. I don't do it down here for some reason. But,
Yeah.
so I find that I channel, instead of specifically fidget toys, this is where I acquire new little hobbies. So I've currently gotten into, like, especially when you think about my age, this gets hilarious, but like candy bracelets, like the pony beads,
Oh,
because
those are fun though.
fun. They're colorful and little, and I can just play with them while I'm watching TV and be like, "Oh, I made a pretty bracelet," and it's just like, but it's stupid fun, and I'm not doing it for any reason. So that is my fidget right now. Is that if it's
Um,
not, pulling my own hair.
It's hilarious because I guess I'm thinking through, like, I used to carry yo-yos on me, like especially through college. I would
That's
carry
amazing.
yo-yos. That was like a thing I would do. And then I had a roommate one time that like stormed into my room and she was like, if you shuffle cards one more goddamn time, I'm gonna kill you. Because I would just sit in my room and I just shuffle, shuffle cards. And then God, there was crocheting. I also could crochet. And I guess I
Yeah,
also then
it
those
is
are my
interesting when you come back and think about like some of the hobbies you've had over the years or the little things you got interested in, and you start looking at them through the lens of ADHD. You're like, oh, this was because this was a tactile thing. This is because this was, you're like, it is interesting to kind of go back and think about things through that lens. Speaking of tactile things and hobbies, I am curious about all this fabric I'm seeing behind Sophia.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like I do like photo shoots and like fun
Ah,
pictures for the brand. And so I've got like all
love
these
it.
very nice gloves back here, and
Nice.
then just some art that I made, and then um just a whole mixture of it. And I think it's kind of fun to
Yes,
just
the sewist in me went fabric. I see fabric.
I know. Well, and that like I love fabric, and so for photo shoots, I instead of doing like backdrops, a lot of times I'll just get bolts of fabric that I think are
Love
gorgeous,
that.
you know. And so kind of creates a really nice texture and images that I like. So yeah, that's the chaos mode
I
behind it.
really just want to like run my hand like
Across
like
all the
across the
gloves.
rack of all the stuff. The rack of like with the
Be like,
velvet and all
good
the
touch, good touch.
gloves.
Oh, bad feel, bad feel. Good touch,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
touch.
yeah.
These are all gloves, so they're like,
So
these
Yes,
fun.
like
I want to touch them all.
latex long
Oh, those are
leather.
latex. Oh my gosh.
Damn.
Yeah, and they go like all the way up, almost like cow, like,
Wow.
you know.
That's amazing.
I call it my Sasha Fierce stuff because I get to like all the things that I've always wanted in my life. But I'm like, where would I ever, I guess I could just wear it out for a drink, but I don't. Um, I get to get them for
So
fun.
that's what I do with my food photography props. I'm like, I just usually eat my salad out of the metal bowl I mixed it in, but
Or
I can justify buying this gorgeous, stoneware thing because I need it for photos.
It's true. And you can write it off.
Yeah,
Oh my
exactly.
gosh, that's brilliant. Like
Uh,
I have all my fun things because I need it for my business.
Yep.
there's so much that we've ended up with and justified as we can use it for the art business. We can use it as a display piece. We can use it as
My husband told me I'm not allowed to buy any more Dutch ovens. We have 4 of them. Some of them brands have sent me for free, and he's like, I don't care if they're free. We have nowhere to put them.
no more.
No more
That
Dutch
was
ovens.
me with fabric. There was a time when I lived in a bigger space where I had this whole like what should have been the giant linen cupboard was just full of fabric. And it got to a point where my partner at that time was like, nope, unless you can explain to me exactly the project and the due date that you're using this fabric for, it does not come into this house.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, my husband has ADD too, and so it goes both ways. I've told him he's not allowed to buy any more wall art until we have more walls to put it on, and he's not allowed to buy any
Art
more comic
supplies.
books unless he's the one who's willing to pack them when we move.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
he
it's nice
is.
for you that you both have partners that get it, because my partner is like,
Oh no.
no, enough, random things from buy nothing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need it,
Danger, danger.
but we could.
I prefer
No,
trying
but
to
if
be the
it's
one who
free,
puts
it's
this stuff
hard.
in the buy nothing.
I do both. Yeah, both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lovely, I don't know if those of you who are here in Portland are familiar with the really, really free market. Um, dangerous, but also like we'd love to take stuff to it and see people be like, oh, this is actually what I needed, or yay, this is something I wanted. But the problem is when we see what other people brought, they're like, well, I could use that, and I could do this, and that. It's like, whoops, we left with the same amount we came with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what is a current challenge that you have, like a current ADHD challenge that is just like irking at you?
I think for me, I started my blog in 2019, and it took me a bunch of spiraling into ADD rabbit holes to like finally figure out a system that worked for creating like both the blog content, the recipes, the articles, and the social media content I needed for that. I knew I was taking a leap when I decided I was going to also do a cookbook, but I'm now at that point where I need to figure out how the cookbook systems fit into the blog systems, because I know how to do recipe development for both, but the blog, there's like instant gratification, which is really exciting when you have ADD. You get to develop the recipe, shoot it, share it right away. But the book, I have to like sit on all these recipes. And so figuring out what my system is for developing them, writing about them, when I know I'm not going to photograph them for like another year, and like making sure that it's fresh in my brain so that I know what I need to photograph, what notes I need to take, and how I like keep track of all that work when it's not going to go live on my site, where I can access it whenever I want. That's been kind of my challenge lately, is like figuring out what that new system looks like.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can go if you're ready.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I definitely identify with that. Like, when you know that like the payoff for something isn't gonna be for a while, that's always a hard one, because yeah, it is different when you know you're going to see the results of it, or get to share something sooner, and kind of experience the joy with other people with who you're sharing it with. And it's like when it's something with a longer lead, it's always hard. Like if we have to wait for something to get published, or wait for something to get manufactured, or wait. But mine right now is honestly that, for good reason, there's exciting things happening in our life, which means we are quite busy and there's lots of moving parts right now. But so it means that the things that are really lighting me up with excitement that I want to do, I don't have the time for right now. But because of the ADHD, it's like, well, but no, that I don't want to do. Like, I will be like looking at all the things I need to do, and I get stuck in that. I don't want to do this. I could just go do that. But nope, this has to get done. And it's really hard right now because I've lost some of the time and space for the things my brain really wants me to be doing right now, and trying to convince myself again of that delayed payout. Like, these hugely amazing things are really close, and once those get settled, you'll have more time for the fun things. But the in between, when I can't see that, is super hard.
Summer, it's the end of summer. Like, I was just talking to someone recently about this, where I was like, nothing will change when fall comes, but I will feel better when fall comes. For some reason, I'm ready for my schedule back. And I'm like, there's nothing stopping you from starting your schedule now, but there's something,
but no, like, it's
transitional about moving to September and being like, oh, thank God. It's like, okay, well, that could have happened for you in August, but whatever. Apparently it can't. And maybe this is a good thing to pose to you guys, that I don't know if this is necessarily ADHD or not. And I think this is something I've always kind of struggled with, where like, because I have my own business and because I like set my own schedule, I've been struggling with this rumination of like not doing enough. Feeling as though I'm going 150 miles an hour, and never giving myself like a moment of like, wow, look how far you've come. It's always like, well, but you could have done more. And I think that like when I went to grad school, it was like, well, okay, now I'm going to go to med school, and now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to do this. And it's never just, wow, that was great. Good job, Sophia. Like, it was like, Hmm. Well, okay, so that happened. Anyhow, next it's like
1000%.
it,
Like I know people who have been like, oh yeah, when you finish a thing and you get to sit and have that feeling of accomplishment, I'm like, what the heck is that like? I'm just already
maybe
like, okay, now what? Now what?
maybe
Now
for a
what?
second, but I feel like even that moment of accomplishment is marred with almost like anxiety. It's never just like a moment of accomplishment. It's like a moment of accomplishment, but like, it happened. And then
I
it's
have to
like,
say,
next.
like that resonates with me for sure. I had a great job very early in my career that was entirely remote, and they worked really hard to create a really good work from home culture. It didn't work for everyone, but it like super worked for my ADD. And they really prioritized taking days off, using work time for work things. So like if you needed to like set up your new desk, they were like, you should do that on work time. Don't wait, you're working from home, don't wait until the end of your workday to do that. That is part of work, that is part of your job. Set up your desk. And it was working that job where I started baking because I was like, I need to get myself up from my desk periodically. There's nothing so urgent that if I take 10 minutes to mix some dough together, and like every hour I need to like fold it for 3 minutes. There's nothing so urgent that I can't take 3 minutes to do that. And because that job sort of validated that for me, and I was one of like at my most productive when I was there, it did take me a bit to kind of relearn that when I didn't have a boss or someone being like, yes, good job. Like you can do that. But it's something that I've worked really hard to prioritize as I decided to become like a sole business owner. I was like, I'm not doing this because I want to be a workaholic. I'm not doing this because I want to work 9 to 5 every day. Like if I'm doing this and I feel like I'm constantly on a hamster wheel, I've done something wrong and I need to reassess. And so I try to like always keep that in mind when I'm doing a big project. If I'm like, you know what, it was really hard for me today to write that one blog post, but I did and I got it scheduled. It's okay if I take an hour or two to just watch some TV and scroll on my phone. Like, that's okay. Technically, I'm doing market research when I'm on Instagram or whatever. Like, it all kind of counts. I know my brain is always going. And so I try to just give myself grace to like, I did that thing. It was hard for me. Now I'm going to relax. And, I just moved the task to like tomorrow on my weekly calendar. And I'm like, now I have permission to not worry about this until tomorrow. And I just always try to be really intentional with that because I think being a solo entrepreneur would be miserable if you were just your own rat race boss, like constantly
Yeah.
like breathing down your
I
neck.
was when I started working for myself.
Yeah.
I realized I was the worst boss I'd ever had, which shocked
Yeah.
me because I was like, I'm escaping all this toxic workplace stuff. And it turned out I was driving myself harder than any boss had
That's
because
how it's always been for me.
yeah,
I've
exactly.
realized. Even when I
Yeah,
worked
but
as like a waitress, it's like it was meant to be a
yeah,
job you just worked and left, but not up here.
no, never for me.
Yeah.
It always came home with me somehow, some way. Yeah, no matter what I was doing. And like I would say, even now I'm still in that unlearning process where I'm learning to be more intentional like that. But I'll catch myself. Like if my body says you cannot get up yet, you need to stay in bed. And so then I start my day late. Like I get stuck in that for a while of like, oh, I started my day late. I'm behind. And it's like it'll be like 4 hours into that day where I'll be like, according to who?
Yeah. No, that's been huge for my morning routines, actually. Like, I was able, speaking of working out, I was able to finally incorporate working out into my morning when I was like, who am I going to be late for? Like, I could just, it doesn't matter. And so I actually now, I have it set. So I post on social once a day. And I have it so that like my alarm goes off at 7:30, whatever. At 7:45 a.m. is when I post my thing to Instagram. So I'm like, great. I woke up and I did some work. I'm now free for the next like 2 hours. I can go work out. I can eat breakfast. I can watch some TV. I can shower. And then like at 9:30 or 10, I start work. But like because I have this like minor work task that like is pre-scheduled and I don't have to think about, I can like do that, start my day, and then I'm like, who am I going to be late for? I can take my time with my morning routine and set the rest of my day up to actually be productive. And like, that's been huge for me.
Yeah, just asking that question, like we do it to each other too, my spouse and I, like according to who, or did somebody tell you that had to be that way? Like I
Yes.
just really, yeah, but it's a hard unlearning process when you've gotten used to, when your own brain is the one who's been driving you that hard.
Yeah. It used to feel like if I didn't get up and get to my computer as quickly as possible, I was slacking. And then I was
Yes.
like, wait a minute. If part of my business goals are to like lead the kind of life I want to live, which is not one in which I race to my computer every morning, I need to restructure this. And that's where like, you know, having that one task where I'm like, great, I accomplished something, I feel good, and now I can go do what I want to do, and I'll come back to the work later, just really helped with that unlearning process.
I love that.
One of the things that I help my clients with is that learning to celebrate yourself part, because it's really, really important. And it is the thing though that it feels like so uncomfortable at first when you're not practiced, and it's almost like, well, why should I celebrate myself for taking out the trash? I have to do that anyways. Like that's like cheering on a little kid or something, there's like this weird concept as an adult that we're like, we can't celebrate ourselves for doing the things we're supposed to do. No, fuck that. We can absolutely celebrate ourselves for doing the things that are hard for us, right? Like, because what's hard for an ADHDer is not the same thing that's hard for a neurotypical person. So a neurotypical person might look at you and be like, well, yeah, but who gives a fuck? Because some of the stuff that you guys do with your brains, like a neurotypical person would celebrate the fuck out of for themselves doing it. And you're like, well, that took me 2 seconds. Why would I celebrate that? But it's just because it's a relative thing. Like everybody's brains work a little different. And what's hard for you is not necessarily hard for somebody else and vice versa. And so learning to actually take those moments to celebrate yourself. And it's this like, it's a thing that you have to like rewire your brain to do. And over the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, I've been retraining my brain to do that and be like my inner monologue of being kinder to myself. And it's working because now things like where I used to would beat myself up for like, a couple months ago, I was walking home and I was like so out of breath, and like the past version of myself would have been like, God, you're so out of shape. And like, what is wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. But at this time in my life, I was like, okay, we got 2 more blocks and then we're home. You got this, girl. Keep going. And that difference is like, that makes me not spiral out of control. It makes me not be like so angry and frustrated with myself. It's just like, oh, I'm my best teammate when I'm like actually celebrating and honoring myself and recognizing these things. And we have to live with ourselves every day forever. And so our relationship to ourselves is like so, so, so important.
You said something that kind of triggered something, because you said like, oh, what, like a little kid? Yeah. Didn't it make you feel good when you were little and you got that kind of like, what's wrong with that if it works? And that is something that I've really leaned into, is kind of like, yeah, sometimes you have to talk to yourself like you're talking to a little kid, doing, the little things that they're just learning to do, or that, they don't want to do because they'd rather be playing. Or it's like, but if that works, if it gives me, it's like, if I'm telling myself good job, I get the happy feeling.
Well, and maybe we find it so silly to do that because we weren't the kids that ever got that.
That part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
too.
Yeah. Like, were you ever given praise for those things? Maybe not.
And who said you can't do it now?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who says you can't do it now? Oh,
I love that.
Who says?
Okay, I have loved this so much. Thank you all for being here today. And those of you who are watching on YouTube, catching the replay, I'll have all the links down below so you can connect with all of these 3 amazing humans. If you want to try out some bread recipes or eat some cheer, hit Aiden up for whatever creative thing that he's working on at the moment. Maybe you want to buy one of his bracelets that he just made. Feel
There it
free
is. That's a new business.
No, I'm not monetizing this hobby.
I
One
was
of my hobbies is going to stay a hobby.
That is completely fair. Yes,
Extremely
okay.
valid.
So make sure you connect with them if you would like to. And thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hosting this. This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
very cool. And lovely to meet you all. And thank you.
Yes, you as